What's up guys, Eric here from Techisode TV, and today we're taking a look at the iPhone X 24 hours later, and I'm going to talk about the things that I like and the things that I dislike after just 24 hours with the device. Now I do have to throw out a quick disclaimer here. I have never owned an iPhone before, ever before, not even the first one. I've been an Android user for about, I think, 8 years now, and this is the very first iPhone I've used. So if you're someone who's been an iPhone user and you're coming to check out this video, it's really not for you. This video is really honestly geared towards people who are Android users or they've been Android users for a while, and they're wondering if they should make the switch to the iPhone X. So with that disclaimer out of the way, let's go ahead and get started. So obviously we had to start this off with animojis. These are actually really good. I'm thoroughly impressed with how these work, and even just the mouth tracking on a lot of these is really good, particularly the monkey that you saw right in the beginning. The mouth tracking is incredible on that one. Eyebrow tracking is incredible on all of them. I mean, it really captures and over-exaggerates all of your facial movements, which make these really fun to use. I mean, here's like an angry face. Right, and then here's a happy face. All right, so as you can tell, I mean, these things can show quite a wide range of emotions. And this guy, I just love how, like, when you raise your eyebrows, his whole head just kind of goes nuts. It's kind of funny. And then on some of these, if you, like, blow your cheeks out, like puff up your cheeks, that'll even work too. So that's kind of neat. And then even still, some of these, as you kind of shake your head around, you can see that this pig's ears are shaking, which is cool. And you can also wink sometimes. I mean, it works sometimes, not all the time. I know. So right now I have glasses on, and I noticed that it works a little better if you don't have glasses on. Otherwise, the eye just kind of twitches a bit. So there's that. And then this is, again, this is one of those things where I think this is more than just a novelty. I think that this is something that people are going to use a lot. They're going to use this pretty often. And especially people who already use a lot of emojis in the first place, I can see them using this all the time. I already have used this a ton, and I've only had this for like about a day. So I'm thoroughly impressed with the animojis. And what's really cool about this is you can send this to anybody. It doesn't have to be someone on an iPhone. They just send as GIFs to other people, and they can actually play it back and get the audio and everything too. So that's super cool that you can send these to anybody. Next up, I think the dual speakers on this are absolutely phenomenal. I was actually blown away the first time I heard the dual speakers in action on this thing. It was super impressive. You get this speaker up here actually doubles as like a full-blown speaker, and then you've got another speaker here on the bottom as well, and both of them together, just the sound is very loud. It's really clear for a smartphone too. I'm honestly just very impressed with this, especially compared to my Galaxy Note 8. The speakers are way better on the iPhone X. That's the second thing that I'm very impressed with on the iPhone. And I can't really demonstrate the speakers for you now in this video because of, copyright reasons. But I'll try to find some uncopyrighted stuff for a full review where I can actually let you guys hear what the speaker sounds like. Another thing I really like are the live wallpapers from force touching. Now, obviously, you can get this kind of stuff on Android, but it's just the ones that come with the iPhone X are really neat. I mean, I just really like this kind of smoky animation thing. I just think it looks really cool, and that's something that I do really like about this device. And then the other thing I like too is that here, if you force touch the flashlight, it actually turns the light on, and then you force touch again, and then that turns the light off. That's super cool. That's super handy because on my Note 8, I have to pull the notification shade down and then tap the light there. It really is a lot faster just to force touch the this little flashlight icon to open up the flashlight. That's something that I really do like about this device. While we're still on the lock screen, another thing I really like, face unlock is stupid fast. So I'm gonna turn it on, quickly flip it over to my face, and it's already done. More often than not, it doesn't even feel like I'm unlocking my phone. It just feels like I'm just going to my home screen. And so that's really impressive how fast they made Face ID. I'm thoroughly impressed with that. Another thing I really like is holding the power button here activates Siri, and Siri will just start listening to me. That's super cool. But this is actually, I use this a lot to install a bunch of applications. I would just say, install whatever application I wanted, and then it would open up the App Store, find the application, and then I could tap it to install it. So that was really nice. I do like having this. I mean, it's just like the Bixby button on the Galaxy Note 8 and the Galaxy S8. So that's something I use a lot there. So having it here on the iPhone is definitely appreciated. Another thing I really like is the command center. So if I swipe down from here, you get all these different toggles, and if I force touch here, I get a bunch more options as well. And I just think that this is really just neat looking. I don't know if this is far more practical than what you get on an Android device. Like here's the Note 8, for example. And the Note 8, you've got all these different toggles, and if you long press the toggles, it takes you to the settings for those toggles, and you've got 2 whole pages of toggles. I mean, there's a lot that you can do here. So I think that overall, it's probably more functional on the Galaxy Note 8. You could probably do more with it, but I just kind of like how it looks. I mean, maybe some of you guys look at this and think it looks terrible and you don't like it at all, but personally, I kind of like it. I think it looks kind of neat. So far, the picture quality on this has been pretty incredible. I'm thoroughly impressed with how the iPhone handles colors and things of that sort. And the Note 8 is also, I mean, it's a fantastic device. It's one of the best devices. I'd say, you know, this is one of the best cameras you can get on a phone, as is the Galaxy Note 8. And I think what really takes the camera a step further is that you can do 4K filming at 60 frames per second and 240 frames per second slow motion at 1080p. And that looks, both of those look fantastic. I mean, it's really impressive stuff. And I know that the Note 8 is going to be getting 4K at 60 frames per second in a future update, but it's not going to be getting the 240 frames per second at 1080p in a future update. So that slow motion stuff looks really good on the iPhone. It's really impressive. I also noticed that the camera works a lot smoother on the iPhone 10 versus my Galaxy S8 and Galaxy Note 8. And what I mean by that is when I start recording a 4K video on the Note 8, it kind of stutters and lags a bit before it actually starts filming. But on the iPhone 10, it just starts filming, and I really like that. So that's overall, I do really like the camera on the iPhone 10. Another thing I really like about this is that you get 64 gigs of internal storage as the base model. It used to be 16 gigs. That was stupid. 16 gigs is dumb. Like there's no reason you should have 16 gigs on a device, especially nowadays. So the fact that your base model is 64 gigs now is greatly appreciated. I think that's going to go a long way. Another thing that I do like is that the iPhone now has wireless charging. That's pretty nice. So they put a glass back on here so they can have a coil in the back now, and you can do wireless charging. And it's not the fastest wireless charging in the world, but it's there, and I really appreciate the fact that it's there, especially when you don't have a headphone jack anymore. So this now allows you to plug headphones in and charge your device at the same time, and that is greatly appreciated. Speaking of charging, the iPhone 10 also supports fast wired charging, so that's pretty incredible. That's nice that the iPhone finally gets that feature. Apple says that you can charge this from 0 to 50% in about 30 minutes. That's incredible. That's awesome. That puts it right about on par with a bunch of Android flagship smartphones, and I'm very happy to see that included. What's not so great is that when you get your iPhone 10, you get one of these like slow chargers with it, which is kind of disappointing because pretty much every other smartphone manufacturer that offers fast wired charging, if not every other smartphone manufacturer that offers that, they ship a fast charging brick with it. So it's kind of disappointing that Apple is going to make you pay even more to get an accessory that should really just ship with the device. But that being said, even if you got to pay a bunch extra to get fast charging, it's nice that the option's finally available. Another thing I love about the iPhone is the ability to quickly switch between apps just by swiping across the bottom of the screen. I mean, that's awesome. You can go through a bunch of different apps super quickly just by swiping across the bottom. Now, that's something that you can't do on Android. If you want to switch between apps on Android, the fastest thing you can do is double tap the recent apps button, and that'll take you to the app you had open last. Otherwise, you have to hit the recent apps and then scroll up to select the other app you want. So switching between apps, if you're switching between more than just 2 applications, is actually going to be considerably faster on the iPhone 10, and that's something that I think is really cool. Another thing I really like is the mute switch on the side. I mean, I know this has been here since like forever, but it is a really nice feature, and I do like having that ability. 3D Touch, again, I know 3D Touch has been here for a while, but it is pretty nice to get all these quick shortcuts. And for some applications, you even get like little widget things here as well. So this tells me that this thing that I ordered is going to be arriving Monday. So that's pretty cool that you get even more information as well by 3D touching on all these different things. You know, I 3D touch the Bible thing, and like I get the verse of the day there too, and I can go straight to reading it, go straight to my plans, verse of the day, whatever I need to go to. I can just quickly get to it by 3D touching. And that is something that, some people kind of called this a gimmick a while ago, but I honestly, I'm finding it pretty useful, especially since I take a lot of notes using Google Keep. I can just go here and start a new list or a new note right away. That's really handy for quick note-taking stuff, and that's a feature that I do really like about the iPhone 10. Going back over to the control panel here, I have HomeKit installed, and I've got some Philips Hue light bulbs on it, and I do really like this. Whoops, I just turned the light off on my wife downstairs. Didn't mean to actually turn it off, but tapping it turns the light on and off. And then if you long press it, or maybe that was a force touch, you can dim it down and brighten it back up. And then you tap this color thing here, and I can select a bunch of different colors. My wife is probably wondering what on earth is going on right now with the lights. But that's what this does, and that's pretty cool. You can go to this edit thing and pick a bunch of different colors there, or go and look by color temperature as well. So that's a pretty neat feature. I like how relatively simple and it just looks neat. Overall, I'd say the build quality feels pretty nice. I mean, it feels like it's got some good weight to it, and it feels like a premium device. I mean, it should. It's $1,000. It better feel like a premium device. Another thing I like, and this is kind of simple, but I just think it's a nice little touch. This whole not hourglass, but the way that it fills up here when it's downloading an application to show you the progress, I just think that's kind of neat. I don't know why. It's the little things, I guess. I just think that looks cool. One more thing that I actually just found that I really like is that if you go to your lock screen, you can actually just swipe over from the left, and you can get shortcuts to different things. Now, these are all actually just kind of different widgets that show you different things you can get quick access to. So this is actually pretty nice. I do really like this feature. Now that we've talked about all the things I do like about the iPhone 10, it's time to switch gears and talk about the things that I don't like. And first up is Apple Pay. Now, Apple Pay is good in general. I mean, it works. I mean, you use NFC, and anything that has an NFC reader, you can pay there, and that works just fine, and it's quick. You double tap the power button here, and you'll be able to get right into it and pay quickly. That's great. I do like that. But it doesn't really go beyond that, right? So you can put your credit cards in here, you put your debit cards in here, some loyalty cards as well, but it doesn't have half the things that I'm accustomed to using with Samsung Pay. For example, with Samsung Pay, it has a rewards program, and that rewards program gets you a lot of different things. So actually, let me just pull my Note 8 over here right now. And here you can see I've got 17,000 rewards points here. And with that, I can get a bunch of different gift cards. So here's Best Buy, $20 gift card for 4,800 points. So I can get 3 of these gift cards, no problem, with my 1,700 points. So that's $60 to Best Buy with the rewards points. And I got these rewards points just by doing things like using Samsung Pay in general. Or they have different offers all the time where it's like, make 3 purchases on Halloween and get a bonus however many rewards points. So they've got a ton of different offers all the time that you can participate in to get more rewards faster. So you can get all of this, literally you get cash back on your purchases. And so here, 17,000 points again, these are Visa gift cards. And I can just go down and get a $50 Samsung Visa gift card for 10,000 points. And here, I'm almost at 20,000 points, so I could just wait and get a $100 Samsung rewards card. And this works just like a regular Visa card with the MST payment method, which is different than NFC. So the iPhone uses NFC, Samsung uses MST, and the difference is that this MST method is accepted everywhere because the phone generates an electromagnetic field that tricks the credit card reader into thinking you just swiped a real credit card. So this works at 100% of the places that use credit cards. There are a few exceptions. If you put a credit card in, like if it's like an ATM or something like that, then you can't use Samsung Pay there because you obviously can't insert your phone into that. But outside of that, any normal store, restaurant, any of that kind of stuff, you'll be able to use Samsung Pay just fine. And one more thing here, they've also got coupon codes, so you can get a fast charger for 8,000 points, right? So you tap this, you go through the process, Samsung will send you a charger. Or you can get $50 at Samsung.com. You can get a VR headset for 12,000 points. I mean, that's just crazy. Like all these different things, Samsung just like, yeah, we'll give you this. So this is just one of those things where this is what I'm used to, and this is what I'm going to with Apple Pay, and Apple Pay just doesn't have nearly as much, and that's pretty disappointing. And this next one is something that I really don't like on the iPhone, and that is the fact that Siri doesn't do the same things that I can do with Google Assistant. In particular, control music from any music application. So when I'm driving to and from work, I listen to music. And sometimes I don't start the music right when I get in my car and I'm 10 minutes down the road and then I want to listen to a specific song or a specific playlist. I just ask Google to play that playlist, play that song. I can even do things like add songs to playlists, tell it to like songs, tell it to dislike songs, and do all these different things just by voice. And I do that literally every day I drive to work. So 5 days a week, I'm using this at multiple times during the day. And this is something that you just cannot do on the iPhone. So for example, I have Pandora here, and if I say something like, "Hey Siri, play Christmas playlist on Pandora." Right, so right there, let me turn this up a little bit. So it just said, I can't help you play content on Pandora. And it'll say the same for Spotify, it'll say the same for Google Play Music, it'll say the same for anything except for Apple Music. Okay, so I can't use Pandora or Google Play Music or anything like that. I have to use Apple Music. Well, I figured, you know what? Let me give Apple Music a shot. It's $10 a month. I pay $10 a month for Google Play Music. I figure, okay, let's just see how it is. Plus, you get a 3-month free trial when you get the iPhone 10. So I figured, you know what? Why not? Let me just give it a shot, and I'll just see how it goes, and I'll use the voice commands for Apple Music. Well, first, voice commands work great. Those work as expected. Thumbs up for that. But beyond that, so let me just open this up here. Right now, I've got a song from Lecrae playing, Blessings, right? And I set it up to play like a radio station, make a radio station out of this. First off, why don't I have a back button? If this is $10 a month, I should have a back button because Google Play Music gives me a back button, right? So you'd think that I'd be able to, I mean, if I'm paying $10 a month to be able to listen to any song I want to, you'd think I could at least have like a repeat button, a back button. Nope, you don't get it. You can only go forwards, you can't go backwards. If you guys don't know, Lecrae, he's a Christian artist, so he sings a lot about like Jesus, religious things, stuff like that, right? And you look at their recommendations. Getting lost here. All right, so you look at their recommendations. Andy Mineo, another Christian artist, that makes sense. And then you get this explicit song immediately after, and it's like, okay, well, maybe this is a rap song. I don't know. These Lecrae and Andy Mineo are both rappers, but that's like such a broad generalization of the genre of music that they just start throwing explicit songs in with this, because chances are someone who's listening to Blessings in particular from Lecrae, they're probably not going to want to have the next thing come out be some explicit song. Just a hunch, just based on the type of music, that's probably not what's going to happen. So the point that I'm making here is that the music that they have up next, they call it like their music genius, I guess, for figuring out what songs you're going to want to listen to, is pretty bad in general. And obviously, it'll get better as you hit like this star thing and say, play more like this, play less like this, I don't like this song, I like this song, stuff like that. But right off the bat, it's not doing so hot. And so just to kind of drive the point home, I want to show you guys Google Play Music and what you can do with that. So here is, let me go home and let me go to Google Play Music. And here, I did the exact same thing. I created a radio playlist from Lecrae's song Blessings, and here's what I got. These are a bunch of different things. These are all clearly, so obviously I know this, but these are all different Christian rappers and artists and stuff like that. So it makes sense, and all their music is very similar sounding to Lecrae's music. So this did a really good job putting all of this together. But as you can see, I can go through and watch, or not watch, but listen to any of these things, and I can skip ahead, and then I can skip back and go back songs as well. I mean, again, I'm paying $10 a month for this. I'm paying $10 a month for this. I should have the ability to go back and forth between songs. And then what's even more awesome about this is, let's say, okay, cool, I want to see this thing from Derek Minor. I want to go to his, his page here, and oh, I know this song. This is a good song. Let me go ahead and play that next. Now, when I go back here and pull up the playlist, that's the next song that's going to play. And if I'm like, oh, you know what? Let me bring it down there. I can do that. It's just that when you're gonna lock me in to using Apple Music for voice commands, and that's something that I use all the time, so, okay, fine, I'll use your application. At least make it on par, or at least close to being on par, with applications from other people like Spotify or Google Play Music or even Pandora. Now, I know Pandora, I don't think Pandora has a skip back button either, so I guess this is on par with Pandora. I could be wrong on that, but still, when you're paying this much money, it's pretty frustrating to not have all of those different features. From an aesthetics standpoint, the Unibrow never bothered me. I never had any problem looking at this. This was never a frustrating thing to look at, and I like the overall design of the iPhone. This never bothered me until I started using a few different applications, and I was like, okay, now this is starting to bother me. So first, like if I open Google Keep here, Google Keep hasn't been optimized yet to use the full screen on this iPhone. So what you get is effectively an iPhone 8 size, not the Plus, just regular iPhone 8 size screen here. And it cuts off a lot more, almost twice as much as it needs to for the notch, right? Because you can see where the icons end, that's where the notch ends, and then you get a bunch more cut off. And here's this, you can see the white bar at the very bottom, so like you're cutting off a large part of your screen real estate by doing this with all these different applications. And I know that eventually these applications will be updated and they're going to take full advantage of the screen real estate, but if you bought the phone today, this is the experience that you're going to get. And let's take a look at another issue with it. So if you open up the YouTube app, you can see here you still get these black bars on the side, but you could pinch out, and now the notch, the little unibrow here, is going to cut off, part of the video. And this will happen on really any video you play. So that's kind of disappointing. What I would have preferred to see is have the screen come all the way to the bottom and run up and then stop just before the notch so that it doesn't cut anything off in the video. That'd be nice, and I'm sure at some point YouTube will get updated to do that, but for the time being, that's not how it works. But the biggest offender is in games. So if I open up Asphalt 8 here, you can see that a chunk of my screen is cut off by this little unibrow thing here. That's pretty dumb. So this is going to happen in a lot of different games until they optimize the games for the iPhone 10. Even these little icons are getting cut off in the corners as well. So there's definitely a lot of optimization that needs to be done by app developers to really utilize the iPhone 10 in a way that's not taking away from the usability of the phone. And while we're talking about apps, another thing that's pretty dumb is that when you go to close applications, you long press. So that's actually, yeah, let's go back here and look at that whole process there. So you need to swipe up, hold, and then you get your applications. Then you need to long press, and then from here you can swipe up and remove one app at a time, or you can tap these X's or these little dashes to remove them a little bit faster. I mean, by now you should really be able to close all the apps with just one button. I mean, on Android, if I want to do the same thing, I just open up my recent apps and I just tap close all and everything closes, right? That's just so much easier and something that I'm used to on Android, and still having to close each app individually on the iPhone that's just kind of annoying. Reachability in general is pretty nice. You just swipe down from the bottom part of the screen and you can reach up and tap something in the corner, but then it goes right back up. Well, I need to tap back again, so I need to swipe up again. Whoops. That means swipe it down again. So okay, now I just tapped that. So swipe down again, swipe down, there we go. So apparently it's not the easiest thing for this to work, and I think muscle memory over time, this will get a little easier to get this gesture down. But the point is not so much getting the gesture down. The point was being able to have the window stay down so that I could hit the button multiple times. Like if I have to go back multiple windows, then I have to continually swipe down, tap the next thing, swipe down, tap the next thing, swipe down, tap the next thing. And that's kind of frustrating. I'd rather just be able to swipe down and have it stay there until I'm done with it, and then maybe swipe back up or tap outside the window. Kind of like how you can do on the Samsung devices. So for example, on my Note 8, I can just swipe in from the corner and it's going to minimize everything, and I can just do whatever I want. I can run all sorts of applications. I can do anything I want in this tiny window, and it's not until I'm done that I can then tap here and then be out of that mode. And on top of that, if I swipe in and then back, I can resize this however big I want it to be, and then it'll just stop there. And I can also switch sides as well. So the reachability modes, or one-handed mode as Samsung calls it, way better on the Galaxy Note 8 than it is on the iPhone. Now granted, this is a much bigger screen, but reachability is the same on the iPhone 8 Plus, and that's a much bigger phone, almost about the same size as the Note 8. And there's the same issue on that one as well. So this next one's also pretty annoying. If I open up the camera app, and let's say I want to do some video and I want to switch to 4K or 1080p or switch any camera mode at all, then I can't do that from within the camera app like you can on Android. I have to leave the camera app, go over to settings, then I need to go to, where is it, camera, okay, go down to camera, and then now I can change my settings here, so I can go from 1080 to 4K, okay, great, and then I can go back out of there, then I go back to the camera, and now I can start filming in 4K at 60 FPS. If I wanted to do that on an Android device, now obviously I can't do 4K at 60 FPS just yet, but okay, I double click this and I go to my camera app. That's nice and quick. But then if I want to change my camera settings, I just tap the settings gear here and I tap the video size and I switch to UHD and I tap back and now I can start filming in 4K. So the camera app itself, while I said earlier that I do like the photos and the videos that the iPhone 10 takes, I think they're awesome. The usability of the application, the Note 8 is just a lot better. I really prefer the control that you get with the Note 8 over the iPhone. The interface I just like a lot better. Everything about how the camera works I like better on the Galaxy Note 8. Something else I don't like, no headphone jack. That's pretty dumb. I know a lot of companies are doing it. Google did it with the Pixel, and there's a ton of other phone companies that are getting rid of the headphone jack. Still, I think it's dumb to not have a headphone jack on it. I did hear about some companies maybe putting 2 USB-C ports on it, so you can at least charge and listen to music at the same time without having to use wireless charging. That would be pretty cool. I mean, that would kind of make sense, and that I'd be game for that. But no headphone jack at all. I'm not a terribly big fan of that. I don't like this gigantic camera bump. I mean, that's absurd. That's crazy. I mean, the Note 8, no camera bump at all. I've got dual cameras here, both 12 megapixel cameras, very similar specs to each other, but no camera bump on this one. This one's got a huge camera bump. I don't know what's up with that. And what's really frustrating about this is you may have already seen what's been happening here, is that when it just rocks when it's on the table. So unless I have a case on this, it's just going to make that annoying clicky sound, and it's going to kind of wiggle around and wobble when you tap it and stuff. That's just irritating. We should not have camera bumps anymore. There's no reason for that. Another thing I really don't like about the iPhone 10 is that there's no notification LED, at least that I could find. So anytime I get a message or something like that, if I'm like at work and I'm away from my desk, I go to get a glass of water or something like that, if my wife texts me and I come back, I have no idea unless I pick up my phone and look at the notifications. And I don't want to have to just keep picking up my phone every time I leave my desk and come back just to make sure, I didn't miss a text from my wife or something. Whereas with my Android devices, it will just blink to let me know. Even if I have the phone on silent and it doesn't make any sounds, doesn't vibrate, doesn't do anything, that little LED is going to start blinking and I'm going to know I got some kind of a notification, whether it be a text or a missed call or something, I'm going to know. And the LED blinks different colors depending on the type of notification I have. So that's something that I've really grown to like on Android devices, and not having it here is pretty disappointing. Something else I'm not a fan of is you can only put 4 apps in this little app drawer here. Typically I have 5, so there's just some things I can't put in. Like email is the 5th app that I always put in, so I have like phone, messages, internet, email, and play music. That's what I typically have on all my devices, and I can't fit one of those. So email had to go, and now I've just got these ones here. So that's kind of annoying. And obviously you can move folders there, so I can like take this out. Oops. I could take this out and I could put a folder there instead, and that's fine, but I don't want to have a folder in there. I just want to have 5 apps across the bottom, and I can't do that. So that's a little disappointing. Something else I don't like, I actually tried doing this earlier and couldn't do it, and I was like, what's going on? Why isn't this working? Is taking an application and move, okay, come on, there we go. Take an application and moving it to like just not another screen, but like just somewhere else, like not lined up with each other. I thought that you could do that with the newer versions of iOS. Apparently you can't. Sometimes I just want my apps split up. I mean, that's how I do it on my Android devices. They're like grouped in like different things, whatever I'm doing. Sometimes I have just apps on the bottom and a few on the top, and I do that for different reasons, and I can't do that here. So that's a little annoying, but I think that's something that I could probably get used to over time. So another thing that's kind of frustrating about iPhones is that there's no dedicated back button like I'm used to. And so the back button, I know it's going to be on the top, maybe the left side or the right side, but that's just it. Is it's like the app developers seem to really have a freedom about whether they have it on the left side or the right side. And I've used some applications where it's like, oh, it's like I got to tap over here on the left, and I got to tap on the right twice, and then on the left to like navigate through all these different menus. And even just Twitter here. Let me open up Twitter. So here, I've got a comment thing starting. If I'm like, oh, you know what? I don't want to do this. Let me go back. Wait, back's not on the left anymore. Here it is, X on the right. All right. And then now let me go back. Well, now that's on the left. And obviously, it's not Apple's fault. I mean, they gave app developers the freedom to put the back button, I guess, kind of wherever they wanted to. But it's one of those things where it's just a little annoying. When I'm used to having a dedicated back button in the same spot all the time, and then to have to just be like, oh, left side, right side, left side. And I'm sure, again, this is one of those things that I'm going to get used to after a few weeks, and I'm not going to care about it anymore. But there are going to be times where I do care about it. When I go into certain apps and I try to load certain pages, sometimes the page just doesn't load, and it gets stuck before it loads the back button. And so now I just can't do anything with the application. And that's happened a few times just in the past 24 hours where I'll be in different applications and they'll just kind of lock up when I try to like load a certain part of the application or go to a certain page. And then I can't go back either. So the only way to get out of it is to come back to my home screen, do this, and then I, take the app and I just close it. Then I need to open up the app again and then just navigate back to whatever it was I was trying to do. On my Android devices, I would just press the back button when that happens and it would take me back to the last screen and I'd be like, okay, well it didn't load, but now I can try again and it'll load fine. So it's like without having dedicated back buttons, you're more prone to having to force close applications. So at least in the past 24 hours, that's happened to me enough times that I need to put it in this video. And again, I know, brand new phone, iOS is going to be updated, and I'm sure all of these things are going to get worked out over time, but this is from the perspective of an Android user for 8 years, coming to use an iPhone for the very first time. This is my experience, and this is what I'm sharing with you guys. Lastly, you get no expandable storage on the iPhone, so 64 gigs is great, but I actually, on my Note 8, I have an SD card in here, and I actually have 90-something gigs used on my SD card for photos and videos, and then a bunch of storage used on my 64 gigs of internal storage as well. So the fact that I don't get that SD card expansion here, especially with the capability of 4K videos at 60 frames per second and 1080p videos at 240 frames per second, that's going to eat up a lot of data, and I'm just going to mow through that with pictures and videos on this device, which is quite unfortunate. I mean, 64 gigs is a lot. That's great to have for internal storage, but not having that expandable storage is a little disappointing. So there you have it, guys. A bunch of things I really liked about the iPhone 10 and a bunch of things I really didn't like about the iPhone 10 in my first 24 hours of use. I'm going to be doing a full comparison review between the iPhone 10 and the Galaxy Note 8. So drop a comment below to let me know what you want to see in the comparison between these two devices, and I'll do the best I can to include as much of that as possible in the video. Like it if you liked it, share it if you loved it, and subscribe to see the rest of my iPhone 10 coverage. And while you're at it, smack that notification bell to be the first to know when a new iPhone 10 video drops. That's it for this Techisode. I'll see you guys in the next one.